Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the M3 iMac and see how this particular iMac holds up in 2024. Now, the thing with this particular Mac is that it literally just came out. It's not even that old yet, but there are still some advantages of picking up something like an M3 iMac, and the fact that we basically have the, not successors of these things, but we do have an M4 iPad Pro and some other devices that have came out since this Mac's inception. I think there's still some advantages of buying something like an iMac over even a Mac Pro or any of these other products as well. And we'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. The big thing I'll definitely tell you is if you want to pick up either one of these Macs that I'd recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, the first thing I basically want to state and get out of the way is that between the iMacs, there's two different big models. So they make an M3 iMac with 2 ports, 2 Thunderbolt ports on the back, and they make another one with 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the back. So it really just depends on which way you want to go, whether you want to go ahead and basically get a one with 2 ports or the one with 4 ports. And that is kind of the big thing to kind of keep in mind here. Now, one thing to keep in mind too is that if you're going up to that 4-port option, you do get a few more colors that you can basically choose from, which is actually pretty cool. But beyond that, they're kind of the same situation. You can kind of spec them out relatively almost kind of the same way, but it really just depends on which particular one. The 2-port one is going to be cheaper here. Now, on the front of this particular Mac, you're getting a very good display. It's a 24-inch 4.5K Retina display. And the thing I love about these iMacs is that they are all-in-one built-in PCs. So it's not like you're buying the display then buying something separately. You are purposely buying an all-in-one Mac, which has everything built in inside of it. It's you plug in one thing and that's it. So all you need is one outlet to power this particular Mac, which I love. Before, when you were getting, other type of Macs or products, especially in the M lineup, you had to buy an M1 Mac Mini or M model Mac or Intel Mac, whatever, buy a display and then figure that out and, put them all together. This, you don't have to do that. It's already a very, very good display. It's a sharp display as well. And I would definitely say from that particular side, if you're going through and buying something like an M3 Mac Mini, you're probably going to have a pretty good time with it because it isn't going to be this super bad display. It's a 24-inch 4.5K Retina display. And both panels on both, whether you're getting the 4-port option or the 2-port option, it's going to be around the same. It's going to be the same exact display for the most part as well. Now, you do get the stand, on the bottom, which is nice, but you're also getting this pretty thick bezel around the iMac as well. And this is kind of a disadvantage, I would say, for the most part. I feel like, they have to make it so doesn't compete against their cinema displays or anything like that. But I would say there's still probably some ways for them to reduce the amount of, bezel on the front of this thing. There's no Apple logo on the front, which so it doesn't bother you that much. And depending on what model color you get, it'll probably blend in with the display on the background. But I will definitely tell you, it can be kind of annoying to constantly look at that massive bezel at the bottom. You're also getting a speaker on the bottom, but that's kind of where the whole entire computer is housed in. The computer is pretty much primarily housed inside of that particular bottom part, which again is kind of interesting. It's an interesting setup here, but again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, and I do think it's a really nice thing going on for this particular Mac when it comes down to it as well. Now, on the top, you're also getting that webcam as well, which is very, very nice to have. I like having that webcam. It's a very nice thing to have, and you can just take photos and videos on it. It's actually a pretty decent camera on that thing too. Now on the back side, you're also getting a little bit of a different setup here as well. So on the back of the iMac, you're getting 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports or you're getting 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports. Like I said, it really just depends on which particular model you're going to end up buying. I think in these particular situations with both of these, they're a very, very good type of, I/O. But the thing is, if you're just going to upgrade your particular Mac just because you want the one with more ports, the thing to kind of remember is that you can't always go ahead and just buy a dongle or an expandable port, dongle on Amazon. And with those, you can go and plug in a dongle on the back of this and you can unlock a lot more ports. You can get way more Thunderbolt ports. You can get a Thunderbolt extender. You can get USB-A ports, SD card slot, so much stuff you can just get with just one USB port. So I wouldn't really freak out about that too much. I have one connected to my Thunderbolt display, and I actually use that thing all the time. It's just so nice at plugging in SD cards and all that stuff. And all you really need is just one Thunderbolt port. And with something like the M3 iMac, unless you're using a different display, you're using 2 displays, you're probably not even going to care that much about having multiple ports. So I do think for 2 ports, you're probably going to be okay. You need one port to kind of extend out to a different display, and you need one port for basically I/O and stuff, and you're basically getting that on this particular thing. So I think from that side it's cool, but if you have more money or if you plan on using this for an everyday purpose or you need more than just one, extra port or 2 extra ports, having, the ability of going up to the 4 Thunderbolt 4 port option under that iMac is also a very, very nice thing as well. And I do say that in and of itself is another really cool thing that I actually love a lot about that particular Mac. So like I said, you can go for the 2-port or the 4-port option. If I were you, I probably would go for the 4-port option if you can afford it. But if not, I think that 2-port option is also very, very good as well. Now, on top of that, when you kind of consider those things, the other big thing here on these particular Macs as well is the power. So depending on which model you get, this is the other big difference between these two different models. So although the display and the chipsets are basically the same, you can spec out the GPU a little bit differently. So if you get that 2-port option, like I said, it comes in basically one power configuration, the 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU. But if you get that M3 iMac with 4 ports, you're getting either that 8-core CPU or that 10-core GPU inside. So that is in and of itself another big difference here, because you can basically go through and kind of spec out those things depending on which way you want to go. And I generally do think this in and of itself is another very big thing going on here. Now the RAM also is another very big difference here as well, because you can go and get up to 24 gigabytes of RAM on both these models. So if you need a little bit more of a GPU power, you can get the M3 iMac with 4 ports. But the other big thing here too is the storage. So I'm going to say this and then I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are. So with the M2 iMac or the M3 iMac with 2 ports, up to 1 terabyte of storage. The M3 iMac with 4 ports, you can get up to 2 terabytes of storage. For some people out there, you might think that getting twice the amount of storage on the M2, on the M3 iMac with 4 ports might be the better deal. I will tell you, from my personal situation, because this is a standalone PC, like you plug it in and it's not going to move anywhere, you are much better off just buying like a 2 terabyte SSD and just plugging that thing into this particular Mac and dragging and dropping files back and forth, rather than going through and actually paying for more storage built in inside of these computers. This doesn't make any sense at all for me to recommend. Like, it generally just doesn't make any sense at all. Like I said, you're just significantly better off just buying an SSD or something like that, rather than going through and utilizing these types of Macs and kind of going down that direction. That's kind of how I see it, and I do think that probably makes the most amount of sense here as well. So, from the power side, these Macs are going to be able to handle everything you throw at it from a power perspective. Unless you're doing like super crazy intensive stuff, I think the average person probably would be okay with something like an M3 iMac. If you're just like writing out code, if you're just taking notes and editing documents, or you're editing videos and photos and you're doing like playing some games and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure this Mac can handle a lot of stuff that you throw at it. The only thing is, like, if you're doing like super intensive video gaming, or if you're doing like super crazy like video editing or things like that, like things that require the GPU quite heavy, this thing may not be the best machine out there for you, and you might even be able to just buy like an M1 Pro MacBook Pro in the used market, and you might get a better machine than this thing. But I do think there's a lot of reasons why these particular Macs do a really good job from that particular side as well. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you is I love the M3 iMac. I think it's a very, very good machine, and I do think it's a very good product to buy. Is it the best thing of all time? Probably not. But I do think for the most part, Apple did a really good job with these particular Macs. And if you need an all-in-one PC, I think this is a very decent option. Like, I do think Apple did a really good job with this particular Mac, and I would definitely recommend people to buy it. Would it be the first one I'd recommend people to buy? Probably not. But I do think it's a very good machine, and I definitely do think it gets a thumbs up on my side. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.